On the eve of the national apology to stolen generations, the peak body representing survivors is urgently calling on the government and institutions to support survivors and their families before they die. A report has found that only 5 of 83 recommendations from a landmark inquiry into the stolen generations has been implemented in almost 30 years. Shannan Dodson is the CEO of the Healing Foundation and joins us now. Very good to see you, Shannan. So what are your thoughts about why it's taken so long for the Bringing Them Home report recommendations to be followed?
Thank you. And as you said, only 6% of the recommendations have been implemented in what is almost a generation. And I think the reason why it's taken so long is that the research behind this report showed that there just has not been a systematic and whole of government response to the recommendations. And although there are some recommendations that have been implemented, there hasn't been enough focus around ensuring that they are taken action on as part of a total package.
So which are the recommendations that have been implemented, Shannan, and which are the most significant of the ones which haven't been acted on?
The ones that have been implemented are things such as the apology from the Australian government and also commemorating Sorry Day. But some of the glaring ones that haven't been implemented are the more complex and complicated ones, such as redress for survivors. There's still not compensation or redress in WA and Queensland, and some of the states and territories need to revisit their schemes as well. And there's also issues in terms of accessing records for survivors as well, and also the quality of aged care to reduce the re-traumatisation or re-institutionalisation of stolen generation survivors as well.
So only 6% of the recommendations have been implemented. You say that there's been a lack of whole of government response. That's what's caused this. What do you mean by whole of government response? Can you break that down?
What this report is really asking for is that this is not just a current government issue. This is an issue for all political parties, all governments, departments, and anyone who comes into contact with stolen generation survivors. What the recommendations in this report show is some really practical solutions about what the people who oversee these things, such as the Department of Health and Ageing, the Attorney General's Office, can do in terms of how we progress these issues around redress, aged care, and access to records.
Shannan, if all the recommendations were acted on, how would it change the lives of the surviving stolen generation?
What we've been hearing from survivors is that the recommendations from the Bringing Them Home report still stand true today, and that if those recommendations were implemented in full, it would see that the healing journey for stolen generation survivors is becoming a more complete one, and that their families and communities have a better opportunity to be able to deal with the impacts of that forced removal and the trauma that they're still suffering with today.
Finally, Shannan, what pressure can you bring to bear to bring change and get the measures implemented?
I think that it really takes bringing a lot of heads together and taking on these recommendations to ensure that we can come up with how these recommendations can be implemented as part of existing mechanisms. We don't need to start from scratch. There's already mechanisms such as the Closing the Gap partnerships and other frameworks within the relevant departments, and we just need that concerted effort to be able to get these actions over the line.